perfectly manicured lawn, a quiet suburban neighborhood, and 3 days of complete silence that would forever haunt the city of Cincinnati. Welcome, true crime investigators, to one of Ohio's most perplexing cold cases that continues to baffle law enforcement to this day. If you're fascinated by unsolved mysteries, hit that subscribe button right now, because what you're about to hear will keep you up at night. On September 27, 1966, Linda Bricca, a 24-year-old mother and former airline stewardess, her husband Jerry, a 28-year-old construction supervisor, and their 4-year-old daughter Debbie were found brutally murdered in their home at 3381 Greenway Avenue in the peaceful Cincinnati suburb of Bridgetown. The discovery came after 3 days of eerie silence at the Bricca residence. But let's rewind to what seemed like an ordinary Sunday evening in Cincinnati. Jerry Bricca had spent that Sunday afternoon watching football with his friends, while Linda and little Debbie visited Linda's mother. They were the picture-perfect American family of the 1960s. Jerry was known as a hard-working family man who had recently received a promotion. Linda was beautiful, popular, and devoted to her daughter. And Debbie, she was the neighborhood sunshine, often seen playing in their front yard with her beloved dog. Before we dive deeper into this haunting case, if you're finding this story as intriguing as it is disturbing, take a moment to hit that like button. Your support helps us bring more unsolved cases to light. The last confirmed sighting of the Bricca family was on Sunday evening, September 25th, when they returned home. Neighbors reported seeing their lights on and hearing typical household sounds. Nothing seemed amiss, but Monday came and went. Then Tuesday, the usually active household had fallen mysteriously silent. The family dog's increasingly distressed barking was the first sign that something was terribly wrong. When Jerry didn't show up for work for 2 consecutive days, his coworkers grew concerned. Linda hadn't answered any phone calls, and little Debbie hadn't been seen playing outside. On Tuesday evening, Jerry's supervisor called the police requesting a welfare check. But in a tragic twist of fate, the responding officers only did an exterior check of the house, finding nothing obviously amiss. They noted that the family car was in the driveway and all doors were locked. With no signs of forced entry, they left. It wasn't until Wednesday afternoon that the horrifying truth would be discovered. And trust me, what investigators found inside that house would shake even the most seasoned detectives to their core. Hey, crime sleuths, if you're invested in uncovering the truth about this baffling case, make sure to subscribe. We're just getting started, and you won't want to miss what happens next. The discovery came when neighbors, along with Jerry's concerned uncle, finally gained entry to the house. The scene they encountered was nothing short of nightmarish. All 3 family members had been viciously stabbed multiple times. Linda and Jerry were found in their bed, while little Debbie was discovered in her own bedroom. The murders were methodical, brutal, and showed signs of being personally motivated. The investigation would soon reveal details that would add layers of complexity to this already puzzling case. And as we continue this story, you'll understand why this case continues to haunt Cincinnati to this day. The investigation into the Bricca family murders would uncover a web of peculiar circumstances and suspicious details that would perplex investigators for decades to come. If you're ready to dive deeper into this chilling mystery, hit that like button. Every like helps us share these important stories with more true crime enthusiasts like yourself. The crime scene itself was unusual. Despite the brutality of the murders, there was a strange sense of order to the house. Nothing had been stolen. There were no signs of forced entry. The doors were locked when police arrived. This suggested something crucial to investigators. The killer or killers were likely known to the family. The forensic evidence was equally puzzling. The murder weapon, believed to be a knife, was never found. The killer had taken the time to clean up after the murders, even going so far as to place towels around the victims to absorb blood. This level of preparation and cleanup pointed to a calculated, premeditated act rather than a crime of passion. One of the most intriguing aspects of the case centered around Linda Bricca's past. Before her marriage to Jerry, she had worked as an airline stewardess for TWA, and rumors circulated about a possible relationship with a married doctor during this time. Police would later discover that Linda had received numerous phone calls from an unknown person in the weeks leading up to the murders. Before we continue with this shocking revelation, true crime investigators, if you're finding these details as fascinating as they are disturbing, now would be the perfect time to hit that subscribe button. You won't want to miss our future investigations into cases like this. The married doctor in question was thoroughly investigated. He had an alibi for the night of the murders, but some investigators remained suspicious. The nature of his relationship with Linda was never fully clarified, and some witnesses reported seeing him in the neighborhood in the weeks before the murders. Another peculiar detail emerged during the investigation. A neighbor reported seeing an unfamiliar car parked near the Bricca home on the night of the murders. The witness described it as a dark-colored Pontiac, but despite extensive searching, the vehicle and its driver were never identified. The timing of the murders added another layer of mystery. The killer had chosen Sunday night when most neighbors would be home. Yet, remarkably, no one heard any screams or signs of struggle. This suggested either that the victims were subdued quickly or that they knew and trusted their attacker. If you're as invested in solving this case as we are, make sure to give this video a thumbs up. Your engagement helps us continue investigating these important cold cases. Jerry's background was also scrutinized. As a construction supervisor, he had recently received a promotion, which had created some tension at his workplace. Several of his colleagues were interviewed, but no solid leads emerged from this line of investigation. The murder of little Debbie was particularly haunting to investigators. Unlike her parents, who had been killed in their bed, Debbie was found in her own room. The killer had taken the time to move through the house, from room to room, methodically carrying out these horrific acts. This level of calculated violence suggested a deeply personal motive. Another crucial piece of evidence was a single fingerprint found on a doorknob inside the house. However, in the days before sophisticated DNA testing and modern forensic techniques, investigators were unable to match it to any suspect. This piece of evidence remains preserved in case files, waiting for advances in technology that might one day help solve the case. The investigation would continue to uncover more questions than answers, leading to numerous theories and suspects. But what happened in the aftermath of these discoveries would add even more intrigue to this already baffling case. The Bricca family murders sent shockwaves through Cincinnati that continue to reverberate today. If you've been following this case closely, hit that subscribe button now, because the developments that followed the initial investigation are equally compelling. The case sparked one of the largest investigations in Cincinnati's history. Over 400 people were interviewed in the first few months alone. Detective Pat Stein, who worked on the case for years, would later describe it as the one that got away. The investigation file grew to contain more than 5,000 pages of documents, tips, and interviews. A significant breakthrough seemed possible in 1969 when a man confessed to the murders. However, his confession was quickly proven false after investigators discovered he was incarcerated at the time of the killings. This would become a pattern over the years. Occasional confessions or promising leads that ultimately led nowhere. The impact on the Bridgetown community was profound and lasting. The murder shattered the sense of security in this quiet suburban neighborhood. Residents began installing security systems, an uncommon practice in the 1960s. Parents became more protective of their children, and the carefree atmosphere of the neighborhood was forever changed. The case has been reopened multiple times over the decades, most recently in 2004. With each review, investigators have applied new forensic techniques to the preserved evidence. In the 1990s, investigators attempted to use early DNA testing on items from the crime scene, but the results were inconclusive. One of the most haunting aspects of the case was the fate of the family dog, who had been left alive in the house during those 3 silent days. The dog was later adopted by relatives, but neighbors recalled its distressed barking as one of the first signs that something was terribly wrong at the Bricca home. True crime enthusiasts, if you're finding this case as compelling as it is mysterious, take a moment to like this video. Your support helps us continue investigating cases like this that deserve to be remembered. The Bricca murders have become deeply embedded in Cincinnati's cultural memory. Local journalists and authors have written extensively about the case, each attempting to make sense of the senseless violence that claimed 3 innocent lives. The case is often cited as one of Ohio's most notorious unsolved murders. In 2014, cold case investigators revealed that they had developed new persons of interest, though no names were publicly released. These individuals were described as having connections to both Linda's past and Jerry's workplace, but without sufficient evidence to make an arrest, the case remained officially unsolved. The house on Greenway Avenue still stands today, though it has changed hands many times over the years. Some residents have reported strange occurrences in the home, adding a paranormal element to an already mysterious case. However, the real ghost that haunts this case is the question of justice. Will it ever be served? Before we conclude this chilling story, if you haven't already, please subscribe to our channel. Cold cases like the Bricca family murders deserve to be remembered, and your support helps us continue sharing these important stories. The Bricca family murders remain one of Cincinnati's most enduring mysteries. The case files remain open, waiting for that one crucial piece of evidence or confession that could finally bring closure to this devastating story. Until then, the events of those 3 silent days in September 1966 continue to echo through time, reminding us that some questions may never be answered. Perhaps somewhere out there, someone knows what really happened to the Bricca family. Maybe they're watching this video right now. If you have any information about this case, the Cincinnati Police Department's Cold Case Unit continues to accept tips and leads. Sometimes, all it takes is one person speaking up to finally bring justice to a family that has waited far too long. Remember, every unsolved case is a family waiting for answers, a community searching for closure, and a truth waiting to be uncovered. Thank you for joining me in remembering the Bricca family and keeping their story alive.